Story, let me tell you a story. The people of Obada were of the Yoruba stock, though they had mixed with Fulani herders and Igbo traders over generations, creating a tapestry of customs as rich as the soil. Their huts were round and sturdy, built of red mud bricks dried in the sun and roofed with golden thatch from elephant grass. In the center of the village stood the greatest baobab of all, its branches spreading wider than 10 men lying head to toe. Beneath its shade, the elders gathered to settle disputes, the children played games of mancala, and the women pounded millet in wooden mortars that thumped like heartbeats. Chief Olumide ruled Obada with a firm but fair hand. He was a tall man, broad across the chest, with a beard streaked grey like storm clouds. His voice could calm a raging river or thunder like the harmattan wind. He had fought in his youth against raiders from the north, earning scars that he wore like badges of honor. Beside him sat Queen Adana, slender and graceful, her skin the deep brown of kola nuts. She was the keeper of stories, weaving tales into beadwork that adorned the wrists and necks of the village maidens. Together they had 3 children, but 2 sons had died young, one to fever, one to a crocodile in the river, leaving only their daughter, Amina. Amina was the jewel of Obada, born during a rare eclipse, when the moon covered the sun and the birds fell silent. She was said to carry the light of both day and night within her. At 19 seasons, she moved with the grace of a gazelle, her laughter bright as the kingfisher's wings. Her eyes were wide and dark, holding secrets like still water holds the sky. She wore her hair in intricate braids threaded with cowrie shells that clicked softly when she walked. But it was not her beauty alone that made her beloved, it was her heart. Amina rose before dawn to fetch water for the elders, shared her portion of food with orphans, and tended the sick with herbs she gathered herself from the bush. Among her closest friends was Fumi, a steady girl with a quick tongue and hands skilled at weaving baskets so tight they could hold water. Fumi dreamed of marrying a trader and seeing the great markets of the coast. Then there was Kofi, a young farmer with arms strong from hoeing and a shy smile that deepened when Amina passed by. Kofi's father owned many cattle, and he often brought fresh milk to Amina's compound as an excuse to speak with her. And there was Chidi, the hunter, bold and boastful, whose arrows never missed and whose stories grew taller with each telling. Chidi mocked the old ways openly, saying the ancestors were dust and the spirits mere wind. In the beginning, Obada honored the land as a child honors its mother. Every planting season, the entire village processed to the sacred baobab. Drummers beat rhythms that shook the earth. Dancers swirled in clouds of dust painted red by the setting sun, and the priestess, then a younger Mama Tolu, poured palm wine into a hollow at the tree's base. Mama Afefe, they chanted, Mother of the soil, accept our thanks. You give us life, we return respect. The first yams of harvest were buried at the roots, the first millet ground into flour and scattered for the birds. No tree was felled without planting 2 in its place. No field was cleared beyond what the village truly needed. And the land rewarded them abundantly. Rains came precisely when needed, gentle at planting, heavy at growth, tapering before harvest. The rivers never flooded nor dried. Antelope came close to the village, offering themselves to skilled hunters. Bees built hives in the baobabs, yielding honey sweet as love. Children were born healthy and strong. Marriages were blessed with many offspring. Traders brought wonders from afar, salt from the desert, iron holes from the smiths of the east, and cloth dyed indigo from the west, and left with baskets overflowing. For many generations, this balance held. But nothing remains unchanged forever. It began with the arrival of northern traders bearing glass beads that glittered like dew on spider webs. The women of Obada had never seen such colors, blue as the deep river, green as new leaves, red as fresh blood. They traded yams and millet for strings of these beads, adorning themselves until they shone like rainbows. Then came iron tools sharper than any stone, plows that bit deeper into the earth. Young men cleared wider fields to grow more crops to trade for more tools. Cattle herds grew larger, grazing farther, trampling grasses flat. Chief Olumide welcomed these changes, Progress, he called it, building a grander compound with walls higher than any before. Queen Adana wore glass beads over her traditional coral, saying they caught the light beautifully. Even Amina accepted a necklace from her mother, though she felt uneasy wearing something that came from so far away, made by hands that did not know Mama Afefe. The offerings grew smaller. At first, it was accidental. A trader arrived just as the libation ceremony began, and the young men hurried to bargain instead of chant. The next season, rain threatened and the procession was shortened. Soon, only the elders and a few women attended the rituals. Palm wine was poured hastily, without songs. First fruits were eaten rather than offered. Trees were felled for new huts and never replaced. Fields expanded until the bush retreated and the animals moved away. The young laughed at warnings. Chidi was the loudest. "Why waste good wine on dirt?" he boasted one evening around the fire, palm wine cup in hand. "We walk the land. It gives because of our sweat, not old women's mutterings." His friends cheered. Coffee remained silent, glancing at Amina, who stared into the flames with troubled eyes. Fumi giggled, fingering her new beads. "The world is changing," she said. "We cannot cling to children's tales forever." Only Amina continued the old ways in secret. Each dawn, before the village stirred, she slipped to the sacred baobab with a small gourd of palm wine. She poured it slowly, singing the ancient songs in a voice soft as morning mist. "Mama Afefe, giver of life, accept this gift from your child. We borrow your strength. We return our thanks." She planted seeds of baobab and acacia along the river banks when no one watched. She warned children not to trample the grasses needlessly, but her voice was one against many. Then the first sign came. The rains were late. Clouds gathered on the horizon, dark and heavy, but dissolved before reaching Obada. Seeds were planted anyway. Some sprouted, thin and yellow. The river level dropped, exposing rocks usually hidden. Fish grew scarce. Goats gave less milk. The people grumbled but said, "Next year will be better." The second year, the rains failed entirely. The sky became a bowl of brass, unyielding. Cracks opened in the fields like mouths crying for water. The swift river slowed to a trickle. The muddy one dried to cracked bed. Baobabs dropped leaves early. Cattle grew gaunt, ribs showing like ridges in dry earth. Hunters returned empty-handed day after day. Granaries emptied. Children's bellies swelled with hunger. Old ones died quietly in their huts. Chief Olumide sent messengers to neighboring villages, begging grain. Some gave what little they had, others turned them away, for the drought spread. Traders no longer came. The glass beads lost their shine under dust. Despair settled over Obadan like locusts. Families argued over the last handfuls of millet. Chidi's boasts turned bitter. He blamed the elders for cursing the land with their endless chanting. Fumi's laughter ceased. She pawned her beads for a single measure of sorghum. Kofi walked from dawn to dusk, digging futilely in hardened soil, his strong arms trembling with exhaustion. Amina moved among the suffering like a quiet spirit. She gathered wild roots and berries few remembered were edible. She boiled leaves into bitter tea that eased hunger pangs. She sat with the dying, singing songs of hope. Her own cheeks hollowed, but her eyes remained bright. In the third year, even the underground water failed. Wells dried. The sacred baobab stood bare, its bark peeling like old skin. Vultures circled overhead. Death walked the paths of Obada openly. The people gathered beneath the dying tree, a ragged assembly of skeletons in rags. Chief Olumide's voice cracked as he spoke. "We must seek guidance. Mama Tolu, divine for us." Mama Tolu had aged decades in 3 years. Her milky eyes stared sightlessly, but her hands were steady as she prepared her divination tray. She scattered cowrie shells, kola nuts, and bones carved with ancient marks. Incense of wild herbs smoked around her. She chanted for hours, rocking back and forth until sweat carved channels through dust on her face. At last she spoke. voice dry as dead leaves. The land weeps. Mama Asefe is angered beyond measure. We have taken and taken her trees, her grasses, her water, her respect, and given nothing back. The balance is broken. The drought is her tears withheld in grief, her rivers hidden in sorrow. She demands payment, a price for the debt accrued over generations of forgetfulness. The crowd stirred uneasily. What price? Chief Olumide asked. Mama Tolu's blind eyes seemed to pierce each heart. The purest life in Obada. The heart that remembers when all others forgot. Only through willing sacrifice of the most precious can the land be appeased. Silence fell, thick and suffocating. Every soul knew whose life was meant. Amina. That night, no fires burned for cooking, no stories were told, only weeping. In the chief's compound, Queen Adana clung to her daughter, sobbing into her braids. My only child, my sunlight, there must be another way. Chief Olumide sat apart, head in hands. I have failed my people. I welcome the new ways too eagerly. My pride has brought this curse. Amina knelt between them, calm as still water. Father, mother, do not grieve yet. If my life can save Obada, then it is not wasted. The village raised me, now I can repay that debt. But her parents would not accept it easily. The next day saw fierce debate. Some argued for another sacrifice. Chidi volunteered himself boldly, saying his strong life was worth more than a girl's. But Mama Tolu shook her head. The land knows hearts. Yours is proud, not pure. Others suggested cattle, gold, anything else. Mama Tolu was firm. The debt is of respect. Only true remembrance, proven by willingness to give all, will suffice. Kofi came to Amina secretly at night. I cannot bear it, he whispered in the moonlight outside her hut. You are the best of us. Let me go in your place. Amina touched his cheek gently. Kofi, your heart is good, but the divination spoke clearly, and perhaps there's wisdom in it. I have always felt the land's pain most keenly. Fumi wept with her. We were fools, chasing shiny beads while the earth suffered. Forgive me for laughing at your warnings. Even Chidi came, shamefaced. I mocked the old ways. If I had listened, I forgave them all. On the 7th day after the divination, preparations began. The village women washed Amina in water scented with herbs, the last precious water from a hidden spring. They dressed her in white cloth woven from cotton grown in better years. Her braids were adorned not with glass beads, but with cowries and seeds symbolizing fertility. Queen Adana placed around her neck the ancestral coral beads, warm from generations of wearing. At dawn, the procession formed. Drums beat a slow morning rhythm. Flutes wailed like lost souls. The entire village, those strong enough to walk, followed Mama Tolu to the most barren field where the earth gaped widest in cracks. There, they spread a fresh mat woven of palm fronds. Amina lay upon it, facing the rising sun. Her parents embraced her one last time. Chief Olumide's tears fell on her face like the rain they all craved. Queen Adana's hands trembled as she smoothed her daughter's cloth. Then the people retreated, leaving Amina alone beneath the pitiless sky. The sun climbed, burning fierce. Hour after hour, Amina lay unmoving. Her skin blistered, thirst clawed her throat, flies buzzed around her eyes. Yet she did not cry out. Instead, she sang, the old songs, one after another, her voice growing hoarse but never breaking. She sang of creation, when the sky god lowered the first people on a chain to the waiting earth. She sang of the first farmers who asked permission before planting. She sang of balance, of giving and taking in equal measure. She sang of love for her parents, her friends, her village, the land itself. As the sun reached its zenith, the earth began to stir.
At first, Amina thought it hit Shuma, but no, the ground beneath her softened imperceptibly. A coolness rose from below, like breath from deep caves. From the cracks, tiny green shoots emerged, delicate, impossible in the drought. Then vines, thick, ancient vines rose from the soil. They were not the dry creepers of the savanna, but lush and living, leaves glossy, flowers white and fragrant. They curled gently around her ankles, her wrists, her waist, not binding cruelly, but cradling as a mother cradles a sleeping child. Amina felt no fear, only wonder. A voice spoke, not with sound that entered ears, but directly into her heart and mind. It was vast as the horizon, ancient as stone, tender as rain on parched soil. Daughter of Obada, child who remembers, you have come willingly, offering what is most precious. Your purity shines like stars in my dark soil. But hear me truly, the price I demand is not your death. The vines bloomed profusely, filling the air with sweetness. Butterflies, where had they hidden these years, fluttered around the flowers. I am Mama Fefe, mother of the soil, giver of all that grows. I do not take life wantonly. Life is my essence. But your people have wounded me deeply. They cut my trees without thanks or replacement. They poured my skin beyond need. They poured no libations, sang no songs, remembered no balance. They took my children, the grasses, the animals, the waters, and gave nothing back.
The drought is my grief made manifest, my tears withheld until respect returns. The true price is not one life ended, but all lives changed. Return to your village, teach them remembrance, make them restore what was taken. Plant 10 trees for everyone felled, limit herds so my grasses may recover. Offer properly, not scraps, but first and best, with full songs and slow pouring. Walk lightly upon me. Live as guests, not conquerors. Do this faithfully, and my waters will flow again. My rains will fall. My bounty return. Not endless, for nothing is endless, but sufficient for balanced lives. Fail, and the drought will deepen until Obada is dust. The vines released her with a caress, sinking back into closing cracks. The shoots remained, growing visibly stronger. Far on the horizon, thunder rumbled, heavy, real thunder, carrying the scent of coming rain. Amina rose, dizzy but strong, and walked back toward the waiting village. When the people saw her coming, alive, walking, surrounded by a faint green glow, they fell to their knees. Some wept, some shouted in joy. Chief Olumide and Queen Adana ran to embrace her, covering her dusty face with kisses. Amina told them everything, the voice, the vines, the true price. At first, some resisted. Chidi muttered that it was trickery, that the drought would end anyway. A few elders feared change as much as loss. But when the first raindrops fell that very evening, gentle, soaking, miraculous, no one could deny the message. Change came, not easily, but steadily. First, the planting. Every able person, man, woman, child, gathered seeds of acacia, baobab, shea, and locust bean. They planted along river banks, in abandoned fields, around the village. Kofi led the young men, his shy smile now confident with purpose. Where 10 trees had been cut over years, they planted 100. Herds were called to sustainable numbers. Excess cattle were traded far away for tools to dig wells properly lined with stone. Goats were penned at night to protect new seedlings. Fields were reduced. Some land was left fallow, allowed to heal under cover of planted grasses. Farmers learned new ways, contours to hold water, mixtures of crops to nourish soil. Offerings resumed in full ceremony. Every new moon, the village gathered at the sacred baobab, now leafing and new. palm wine flowed abundantly. First fruits were buried with songs that lasted hours. Dancers painted their bodies with white clay in patterns of growth and renewal. Amina became the teacher. She walked from compound to compound, telling the story of her sacrifice that was not. Children learned the songs by heart. Young mothers wove the moral into lullabies. Even Chidi, humbled, became the fiercest protector of new trees, his hunter's eyes spotting any who might harm them. Years passed. The rains returned, not in deluge, but reliably. Rivers flowed again, fish multiplied, animals returned to the restored bush. Crops grew strong without excess. Granaries filled, but never overflowed wastefully. Amina married Kofi in a ceremony beneath the fully restored sacred baobab. Their wedding gifts were not grass beads, but seedlings. Each guest planted one in their honor. Fumi married a trader who had learned respect for the land, and together they brought only sustainable goods. Chidi found love with a quiet girl who tended herbs, and his boasts became stories of the land's wisdom rather than his own prowess. Chief Olumide and Queen Adana lived to see grandchildren, many grandchildren, playing in green fields. When Olumide died, he was buried with a baobab seed on his chest that he might grow into shade for future generations. Amina grew old gracefully, her hair turning silver like moonlight on water. She became the new priestess when Mama Tolu passed into the ancestors' embrace. Around the evening fires, she told the tale, not as tragedy, but as the greatest blessing. Travelers from far away came to Obada, drawn to tales of a village that conquered drought not with force but with humility. They left carrying seedlings and songs, spreading the lesson. Generations later, when cities rose and machines plowed deeper than any hoe, descendants of Obada still remembered. In concrete compounds and distant lands, they planted trees in pots, poured small libations of water onto earth when they could, and taught their children. The land gives generously, but she is alive. She feels every wound, remembers every kindness. She demands no blood, only respect. Live in balance, give back what you take, and the earth will cradle you forever. For the true price the land demanded was not death, but life, lived rightly. And Obada thrived, a green jewel in the savanna, proof that remembrance is the sweetest offering of all. My people, if this story touched you, shook you, or made you think, no keep 'em to yourself. Like 'em, subscribe, share 'em, because stories like this, they survive only when people pass them on.